Good morning, one and all. The three amigos unite again, and we've promised each other never to speak of war. And there's Tony's tummy. For those of you who just tuned in for a bit of man flesh, this is what we do. We listen to you and we give it to straight at you. Oh no, it's his face again.
That's
right.
Tony's
good morning, all.
I just wanted to address the elephants in the room, which is us three. Well, if people are gonna call us fat when they're abusing us because they don't have a view of actually any credibility about it, apart from just going at us, I might as well give you know what they say, give the people what they want. You know, what can you say?
Well, that's what I said. I mean, you spoke, we listened. You know,
Yeah.
that's how we operate.
We
And
the people.
I'm gonna put on my glasses, which have drawn so much amusement on Facebook, because apparently I got them from the woman's section. I mean, that's nice, isn't it? Isn't it? I mean, you have a pop at somebody, but you can't help but be a misogynist while you're doing it.
What can you say, mate? You know, the problem is, mate. You know, the thing is that amongst I have no problem.
Yes, mate. Yes, mate.
Yes, mate. It's fantastic, mate. I have no problem with dissenting views, and we put our views here, but our views are typically based on factual evidence or some semblance of credibility. When they go in, like there was one guy goes, "God, you lot are," was it? He said, "You're a lot of bunch of soft cocks." I think they referred to us as, which no, that's not true, mate. I take my pills. I know they work. So that's not true.
We're all fine examples of science, I think.
But it wasn't an opinion or any form of credibility in sight. You know, so it's the easy target of going straight for somebody and calling them this, that, and the other. But tell us why you disagree. Give us a reasoned argument. Fine. What's the problem?
Well, what makes me pleased is that people that I wouldn't wipe my shoes on think that my £500 glasses, that was before I put the frames in, the lenses in. So I've got 700 quid's worth of comedy material on my face, and it amuses me that's what they decided to have a pick on. So, good luck to one and all. But anyway, Tottenham Hotspur Football Club are still going. Should we talk about them?
Are they?
Not much to talk about, but let's crack on with it.
Well, I wanted to kick off because it's very easy. I know what everybody else is going to be talking about, and we will cover that. But I wonder what your thoughts on the plans that have been submitted. Now, these have already been pre-approved, and I've seen some very strange takes on this. But essentially, there's been 3 applications for 4 buildings behind the South Stand. There are 564 dwellings in total. 292 beds, 243 3-beds. This is the one I don't get. A single uno studio flat, which for those of you who don't know is a bedsit. There's no other way of spinning studio. It is a bedsit. I lived in a bedsitter at one point. Most of us have struggled at some point in the proceedings. But this is the Tottenham Hotspur property arm, and I wonder if this is actually going to be included in the deal. If they were to, are they going to bundle this when they sell us to, if they sell us to Malaysians? Do you have any thoughts on this? And have you seen the photographs at all of what the new world will look like?
My thoughts are I couldn't care less about property development or buildings. It is designed to add to the value of the football club, to make it a more sellable asset with all of its revenue streams. But if you want to watch Grand Design's Kevin McLeod's on Thursday night, I'll stick with Speaking Tottenham.
Way, Tony, are you allowed to talk about anything in your sex bunker though?
Apparently not, because Chris just vetoed it all.
Yeah, and you're going to talk about that. You're really beep.
Yeah. First of all, knowing the area as well as I do, still got relatives who live in that area. That to me is like the proverbial carbuncle on the backside of humanity. I mean, it really is just an abomination, isn't it? In an area that it's a lot of people. Someone was saying on Twitter, I think, that it's going to be great because it's going to regenerate the area, it's going to offer jobs, blah 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 blah. The people that are going to live there can't afford these places. You know, so what's
absolutely right. Absolutely
right.
They're going to be blow-ins.
That's just giving Levy and Co. more dosh and then selling them to their exclusively high-priced clients. And I think it's really interesting. You say Uno studio flat. That's Levy doing what Levy does, which is squeezing every last shekel out of a deal.
Because apparently these the designs for these were originally submitted a decade ago, since which the law has changed in the building, or the building regs have changed, and they've lost 24 dwellings. So the idea that they have a single studio, you can't. I mean, I would like to believe. I mean, for example, too much information I know, but where I am, and you'll laugh at this, but there's a refuse room, you know, where the bins go because there's private waste collection. But there's also, which doesn't really help if you're living in the middle of war-torn Birmingham anyway. But there's also a bike rack room. Yeah, because I've got several bikes, as you can imagine. But
you've ridden a few old bikes over the years, I'm sure.
Well, I've been out some right old monsters. I know that. But the point being is could they not have used, because a studio, if they could have made it any bigger, it's not going to be sumptuous. A studio is a studio. It's a studio for a reason. They didn't have the space. But could they have not used it for something else, like a gym or a?
Not questioning you, but we are getting mistaken here, and this isn't a penthouse suite, is it? It's not going to be like
no. This comes from one of the leading sources of non-footballing information, Football London.
Well, the Daily Mail.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, but anyway, their portfolio is blooming, is what I'm telling you.
But Chelsea did a similar thing, didn't they, to justify their financial fair play when they sold the hotel off, didn't they? So you can imagine this is probably something going to be akin along those lines.
It'll be as usual with Daniel. It'll be leverage in terms of some deal or otherwise. Of course, the only reason I really mentioned this is to get a plug in for the shameless nature of the stuff that's going on in that borough, as you're probably aware, Tony. And I'm wondering how many of these buildings will have a pour door, which, if you're not familiar with that, that's where the cheapo people they put in from who are basically on benefits, they have to come and go by a separate exit and entrance to the posh people.
They have to have some percentage, don't they, of social housing, don't they, in new development? But it's so minimal. It's so minimal that it's not going to help the people that actually live there.
No, absolutely not. It's entirely geared up against them, just on the percentage wise, that most of the people are going to be affluent and they're not going to be locals. And all this talk of again another swipe at what Levy and Enoch have been doing, another business of enriching the area. They, in conjunction, I think it was with Whitbread, who owns millions of different companies like Costa and basically any high street sort of eatery type operation, and obviously pubs. I think TGI Fridays might be one of those. I'm not sure, but they're all minimum wage jobs, because they held a thing at the Spurs Stadium for job opportunities. Don't you just love that phrase, job opportunities? I mean, my kitchen is an opportunity to eat, but there isn't much in the cupboards. Do you know what I mean? And yeah, they were all. I
wouldn't say that.
But hey, Figgle. But they were all minimum wage opportunities, and that does not change the infrastructure, the character, the face, the shape, the character of a borough. Not in a million years.
And regardless of what they say about this development, I always come back to the same two words when I hear these sorts of things going on. And it might be old news, but having known that area as well as I do, and known some of the people around there, these two words strike a chord of terror should strike a chord of terror in anybody who knows, and that's Archway Steel.
Yeah, absolutely. This is all built. I mean, don't get too emotional on this, but this is all built on the suffering of people who are minding their own bloody business, paying their taxes, working hard, generation to generation, and they got at the door compulsory purchase order. That is nasty. That is pure nasty. It's not because they were opening an eye hospital for babies. It's because they wanted to sell more falafel burgers. And
thank you, David Lammy. Thank you, David.
And they wanted to sell people like Chris, our good pal Chris. They wanted to sell him cans of Inch's cider or whatever it is for £8. That's the reality. That's the reality. I'm sorry. Compulsory purchase order. We've got to sell Chris B a can of cider for £8. So on your way. Don't scream at me, missus. Just pick up your children and all your possessions and off, because we've got to sell cans of cider at £8. And that's the reality. That's the reality. So anyway, going back to the football, just temporarily for the rest of the show, what do we make of this?
We're back in the room.
Well, we're back in the room. The building section is over. The social cleansing section is over. What do we make of Eze from Palace coming to Spurs allegedly, if Palace agree the three 20 million payments?
I would take him every day of the week. We
and
need
twice on Sundays.
Yeah, we need that player who's got some creativity, got some flair, has got something about them. And now we are supposedly competing with Champions League teams. We need Champions League players. And if you look at our squad from last season, we lacked any real game changers and we struggled along the line. And even in the final, we've been there time and time again, but it was the most dullest affair you've experienced. So we need 3 or 4 game changers. And I think he's got the capability to do that.
I worry that well, I don't worry, but my worry about retaining Ange was not so much Ange, but it was the quality of the squad, generally speaking, because we needed to see players improve. We needed to have faith and confidence in some of them, and it was really tough to generate much excitement. I mean, you took looking at the likes of Brennan Johnson, scored plenty of goals.
19 of them, yeah.
Yeah, but you go, ooh. I mean, ordinarily, you'd be a bit more excited about a player that contributes. What is there? Some whistling noise?
Yeah, I've got a draft. I've got a bit of a draft through one of my windows, and I've got to get it fixed.
Are you living, Tony? Are you living in your car again? Dear God. Talk about the war on want and us discussing new properties being built. Sorry, that was really inconsiderate of me. We won't discuss that sort of stuff.
It's never stopped you before.
No, I think Eze is a fantastic thing. I don't think he's the full shilling in respect of being. He is quite oven ready, but I think there's more improvement to come from him.
I think he's infinitely better than what we have, though. Yeah. That's the thing. That is the thing. His key element is if you're going to spend 60 million on a player, is he going to actually improve us and is he going to give us instant results? The answer to that is yes.
Well, there's another.
He knows the league. Some of the other names that have been bounced out there, like Brian Bremo and Antonio Semenyo, they're big. It's lots of money. Like that Semenyo, good player, but 70 million quid for a bloke who only a few seasons ago was playing for Bristol City in the Championship. And Buemo, scored goals last season. But is it that you pay an English tax and a Premiership tax where they're asking for upwards of £70 million a piece for these two? And you go out and think the world's a big place. If you had better scouts, is there better quality and talent available in Europe or South America or somewhere? Just a question. I'm not saying that's my opinion.
No. I mean, I was my usual helpful self on our WhatsApp chat group when you mentioned this. Basically, cities there is a tax of buying EPL players because it's not, as Sky Sports relentlessly tell us, the best league in the world. It's one of the toughest leagues in the world. And by tough, I mean you've got to have the skill sets, you've got to have the physicality. There's all sorts of dimensions to what makes a good Premier League player. And you can pick up guys that slot in seamlessly from abroad, but you've got to be very careful. And that's not me saying careful what you wish for, because that's a phrase I detest with my entire being. But it's just that we've seen an awful lot of players from European leagues, as you say, come over here, taking our jobs, come over here, and they don't work. And as I say, the criteria that's required. I mean, the graveyard, I would say that Spurs has one of the biggest plots in the graveyard of players that have come from abroad that didn't work. And particularly in the Netherlands, France. So you've just got to be careful. I personally would err on the side of caution and risk overpaying for somebody who did work, because that's at the end of the day, like Tony said, you've got to bring in people who are going to be a notable addition. You get, opposed to, like, for example, Kulusevski is great. Needs to be coached properly, as per just about bloody all of them. But Kulusevski, you're hoping for something extra to come. And at least with Eze, we've seen examples, I think sufficient examples, that he's doing enough at the moment. We want more. Everybody wants more. But I would definitely hoover him up at 60 mil.
If we had anything about us, we'd be all over Jack Grealish. I appreciate it's big salary at £300,000 a week, but he's 29 years of age. He's won the lot. He's still keen to be in the next England World Cup squad. You've got a bloke there that we previously wanted, yet Daniel did Daniel things and we missed out on. If we are talking about upping our games, let's not forget people have made promises that we want to be winning the Premier League title and the Champions League. You don't do that with the currently got or we're looking at. You need some experience to get you over the finishing line, and I generally think Grealish could do that.
When you say people have made promises, I'm remembering that old Queen lyric, was the fin on the back part of your deal?
I think there was a recent
those two schmucks, they promise you the world.
I think there was a recent conversation between two fellas at the Wine Society Thursday night meeting, and in between the Shiraz, the Rioja, and the Malbec. They led on to football and suddenly made a quip. Well, of course, we want to win the Premier League and the Champions League final. And it sort of, by that time, had been transmitted halfway across the globe.
Yeah,
such events. It just shows the esteemed and high altitude organisations and places that Chris goes to that we the plebs just don't have any access to, mate.
I mean, I thought Rioja had 2 good feet, but clearly you're talking about somebody else.
I thought Rioja was the sound when you cleared your throat, mate, but you never know.
Rioja. This is the guy who can confidently order this at volume across a crowded restaurant. You just know it's there, don't you? He just goes, "Oh, waiter, can I have another, please?"
Yeah. Oh, where's my fucking kebab? You know.
Get my chicken, you toothless cunt.
Without any teeth.
A man of the people, true man of every people.
Chris B, every man. Blends in seamlessly.
Men want to be in, women want to be with him.
And the rest of us want our money back.
Yeah, exactly.
So if Eze is a good thing, could getting rid of Richarlison be a better thing? That would be my next question.
Even
I've
better.
I've got a feeling that I think Sonny is gone. There's a bizarre conversation taking place out there, which I haven't even got time for. But it's basically, will she or won't she feature in our end of season or pre-season kickabout nonsense? Because it might affect selling him. I just don't understand that at all. I mean, he's done, isn't he? He's spent. I mean, thanks very much. Tremendous player in his day. But it's like Cliff Jones. Cliff Jones comes out onto the park. Everybody goes, hooray. I wouldn't want to see him in a shirt these days. The guy's retired, you know. I mean,
if the Eze deal comes through, that's definitely the death knell of him anyway, because that's pretty much where Eze plays. So, you know, from that perspective, it's going to be, he can't be any more than a super sub at best, can he, realistically, from now on? So,
yeah, I mean, well, the great thing about the Eze thing for me is that would immediately make Tell a very expensive substitute, and perhaps a cup player.
I'll have you know he scored the winner for the French under-21s last night.
I've got the goal. I've got the goal that's going up on the Substack any minute.
Took it well, actually.
Yeah, it was a decent enough goal. I thought it was worth sharing.
I saw that as well. But when the thing is that, again, you can't help thinking that there's an awful lot of time he had with that. You don't get that sort of time in the Premier League.
I thought you were going to say, Tony, because I saw that and it glanced off the post and didn't go in.
You know me. I'm the sort of person who bets on the replay, mate. You know me.
That's
each way money on the replay. Yeah.
That fire stick you sold us, H. I have the same problem. Sometimes it just freezes mid shot.
I haven't ever sold a fire stick in my entire life. But I would recommend the service that you've given countless hundreds of people, and would certainly recommend.
I just love the way he deliberately gets fire stick wrong, just so it makes it look like he doesn't know what he's talking about.
Yeah. The old ones are best.
The fact these fire sticks are branded Sir Harold of Hotspur, you know, it has nothing to do with it.
The fact that the guy put my face on them hasn't helped, and my home address, including the postcode.
Even with your girly glasses.
Because I got you. I mean, what you can't see is I'm wearing my mum's trainers as well, so I look quite the one this morning. I tell you.
Your frilly pants.
What did you say? So speaking of people living in a condition of perpetual terror, as I am, what do we think of the way that Spurs have dealt with the business with Manor Solomon and the pro-Palestinian watermelon icon? Did you see the abuse that they got? They put up 3 photos of Spurs players getting, I think they were getting married, birth of a newborn child, and Manor Solomon. And goodness me, the abuse and chickens for KFC. Matt Hayes waded in on the side of the Palestinians.
Yeah, who would throw him off a building if they had the opportunity?
If they could find a crane strong enough to winch him up, they would hurl him off the top of the local NCP.
Queers for Palestine aren't very into his thought processes.
No. I just thought it was extraordinary.
Perhaps I'm wrong here, and someone could correct me, but ultimately, somebody like Matt Hayes wouldn't even be allowed over there, would he?
That's what we're saying. They'd throw him off a building, which is the way they get rid of people of his persuasion. Oh
God, that quote you sent in the chat with that bouncer guy. Oh, that was freaking hilarious somehow.
Well, let's leave that in the chat.
Yeah, exactly.
What's said in the chat stays in the chat unless you want to face prosecution.
Unless of course you want to visit in the night from 6 heavy men with flat faces and big coats on.
I think this is one of those sort of situations where I just want to talk about football, and I don't mean it's like dismissing the subject of question. No. But this is where, as far look, shock horror. Someone supports their own country. I mean, come on, guys. You know what?
Absolutely.
How many? And I say I don't want to get necessarily too down that rabbit hole, but how many Jewish people would turn around and say, "Oh, this is an absolute disgrace"? Of course not. They support their government. You know, from looking on the news last night, there's still a huge amount of support for what's going on in the Middle East with within the state of Israel itself and its people. Now, I'm not here to judge whether that's right or wrong at the end of the day, but he's a football player first of all. He's a Spurs asset. And I'm sorry, that's what should count more than anything else. Shock horror probe, someone supports their own country. The people who are commenting against him, they support their own country, which is anti what he supports. So, the fact is, let's just strip that. I know it's not so easy. Can we not just strip that out of the equation and just concentrate on him as a footballer?
Well, this is what I've said. I mean, all along for me, Manor Solomon, footballing reasons why he shouldn't come to Tottenham or shouldn't have a great career, 0. Footballing reasons, there's no reason why he can't be an absolute box office footballer. Non-footballing reasons, how long have you got?
Yeah.
These people cannot stop inventing reasons. He gets injured, and it's absolutely mind-blowing. The reality is, he is a great footballer. He's not the best footballer in the world, but neither is he 29 years of age. I mean, this unhinged lunatic Chris saying we should get bloody Jack Grealish.
He was a Spurs asset last year, H, when Leeds were ripping up the championship with him in there, and nobody was saying a bloody word about it.
Correct. I mean, he's loved by the Leeds fans. I know people up that part of the world, and they do adore him. They've taken to him, and they actually find his politics quite amusing. Not in a mocking way to him, but they've actually embraced it because they are Leeds, and that's what Leeds do.
Well,
because Jimmy Savile is one of our own. They've taken that
they're
on.
more interested in what he could do for them from a football perspective than from a political perspective.
Precisely, they're much more interested in that.
This is a bloke who regularly played Champions League football for Shakhtar Donetsk. He scored 11 goals for Leeds last season, and he's played 44, 46 international games for Israel. Yet some of our players couldn't run a bath, and the thought of dropping their shoulder and going inside and then going outside, very much akin to the days of Anna and Lennon. They were nowhere to be seen last season.
Well, he scored
Manor Solomon or Yves Bissouma.
Oh, don't. It's so complicated.
Isn't it?
Did you see the video that the club put out of Vox popping? Sorry, our fellow fans. I've got anything in common with any of those mofos.
Chris hanging out the back of any of the players or sending them congratulations, you've just had a baby card, or they're at the wedding giving them gifts and presents.
Chris
What the hell has
Chris
vibes got to
Weirdo.
do? What the hell has vibes got to do with anything?
No, vibes are very important. I loved seeing a man with his bottom hanging out of his trousers who is shaking his wild thing to a mobile beatbox.
In the West Midlands at the weekend, where you have to be a member to get in there.
Not wrong. Apparently, I went because I've got a pal who is involved in a local pub, and he's been taking me round bits of rum. And what? Yeah, well, I'll tell you something. You mustn't tell anybody else.
I've noticed a lot of the used syringes around your house, mate. Honestly.
Well, if you can find it, you can find unused syringes around mine. I tell you, but no, he took me to because the Chinatown apparently has shrunk in sort of size. There's a Temu joke in there for you somewhere, but we stood outside this bar, which looked like a bar you get in a sort of stag night in Benidorm or something like that. And he said, "Oh, by the way," he said, if you want to get a free roofie in any drinking water," he said, "this is the most spiked bar in Birmingham." And you two have gone down the shops and don't want to hear any of this. Never mind.
Go on,
you're right, Chris. Should we catching up on the last chapter of your book you're reading?
I'm just looking at the fuck you Manor Solomon chat. You know.
Yeah. Unbelievable. So yeah, Manor Solomon.
Some of us actually have work to do. You know, some of us actually have work to do.
Yeah, because apparently the story that the club came out with, because they even managed to dox the guy who was the social media manager, who appears to be Jewish, dox him and his wife using their LinkedIn profiles, which I thought was incredibly classy. But then it turned out from the club, it was, and Chris got a communication from what he shared with us on our naughty chat group, that it was actually an automated thing done by an app that registered sort of venom and fire in the comments, and that was what was deleting people. But I think you've got to be deleted if you're spouting abuse. And if you leave, having run and moderated so many things over the years, if you leave up a comment that says you're fat, you've got your mum's pants on and your sister's glasses, you will only, by leaving that comment up, you will only attract more comments of the same. Whereas if
how far down this rabbit hole do you go, though, H? That's the thing, isn't it, really, with this? Because you could start picking out on African players. Well, African players, they might come from countries where there's genocide and all sorts of things going on.
Absolutely.
Do we get rid of them as well? You know,
absolutely. But you see that this is the problem. I mean, this is going into politics, but people decide, they pick and choose their causes. And this is the thing with these sort of vanity politics that people are getting involved in. But I think that Spurs should become completely apolitical, and the first thing I would do is remove that stupid flag. That I'm happy with the L, I'm happy with the B, and I'm happy with the G, but you get rid of the T. That doesn't work for me at all, and I've got the law on my side as well as science. And I think it just needs to be about football. And the sooner Spurs do that and they act ruthlessly to say, we're a football club, but then they're not a football club. They're an entertainment centre, a soul harvesting device, and all things to all people, which, as I think history has taught us, you can't do successfully.
I think what is encouraging is that for once it appears we're trying to do our business a little bit earlier than like three seconds before midnight, which is actually where the nuclear clock is gone at the moment, I think, as well. Just a little bit, be a bit carry on topic. Or is it 2 seconds to midnight, something like that? But it's good to see that we got Frank very, very quickly. It's good to see that it comes off as they comes in. That's a lot quicker than it has been, because I look at Liverpool and the business they've done already. They're clearing the decks. They're getting ready, but basically saying to everybody else, "See you later, motherfucker. We're going to win the league next year."
I think one of the reasons they got in Frank quickly was to basically move the Australians along. Because all of the well, if you sack him, you're going to replace him with somebody who wins trophies. Yeah, actually, mate, that conversation's closed. See you next time. Don't forget to tune in.
It's incredible how Liverpool are still getting such value out of the Coutinho transfer fee, though, isn't it?
Yeah.
What they're doing is they're doing what football clubs should do, which is they're immediately rolling the dice and going again. And they have got great value out of that fee. But this is a lesson to all of us, because Spurs supposedly is even adding money from all these other fabulous events and what have you. But we can't do that.
You look at Liverpool, they've got that goalkeeper they signed last season that's come in. They've let Kelleher go to Brentford. They've got Frimpong at right back. They've got Kirkez from Bournemouth at left back. They've brought in that Wirtz for God knows 108 million through the middle. And they're talking about bringing Mark Gui and still looking for another striker. Yet we have still not addressed any real problem. We've brought in Tell. We've made don't
forget. We mentioned him briefly and made some cheap remarks. But Yves Bissouma, he's the Malian Footballer of the Year. I don't think we should acknowledge that. I think we've skipped over that. I mean, that's a big award. He's a big boy, and he's bringing the vibes. You know, surely there's
just fuck off with the vibes. Just stop it right now. Honestly,
I honestly couldn't believe that tape they put out, because that is, as you said, Chris. Frank should hunt out who is making this content and just have them sacked. Or rerouted to working, filling up the garbage trucks, because the idea that anybody in their right mind wants to be associated with this abomination of incels. Oh, yeah, he's bringing the vibes. Yeah, you're not allowed in. Pardon? Immediate lifetime ban. Go. We don't want people like you even buying our merchandise, even online.
Can we have people who have even a basic rudimentary understanding of football, like results?
Well, these are people who get run over at traffic lights, just not very bright.
I want to talk about results. I mean, some people in that video were going on about how great Bissouma was in the final. I'm thinking, dear God, nobody was great in that final. Nobody was even possible in that final.
And this is the problem we have. We're never prepared to say goodbye, but we're always prepared to say, oh, let's just give Frank 6 years with Bissouma to see if we can get the best out of him, and might be able to get 2 or 3 good games out of him on the bounce. We've got to clear the decks. We've got to start again. We've got to, like I read something this morning about Ashley Phillips. Frank really rates him. He wants him to stay. No, he's coming in, taking over, wants to look at all his personnel, to run his eye on them himself. And then when he's made a decision of who he thinks is good and he wants to work with, they'll stay. Everybody else will be exited out the building.
I find it extraordinary that the ideal stadium sponsor is staring us in the face, and Levy's done nothing about it. Bernardo's.
Oh, I thought you meant Dignitas.
Dignitas is a close second. They could say so you could have a Dignitas stand, which is basically one enormous trapdoor. That would do the job. But no, it's just frightening that we adopt these people. We don't work with them. We don't hire them. We adopt them. And you can't say a bad word, because they're all loyal servants and nearly men and journeymen and all the rest of it, and roadmen in the instance of the Malian Footballer of the Year. Just not good enough, just not the required standard.
The originators of football driftwood.
Yeah. And for some of our finest examples go on to be used as lollipop sticks in the local ice cream factory.
Some of our finest examples get an extension of their contract.
Yeah. Play your cards right. Be mediocre as you possibly can be. We'll get a decade out of you.
Yeah, don't worry. You can have a testimonial chucked in there as well.
Can we stop talking about Ben Davis? I find it hugely disrespectful.
I was waiting for Chris to bite there.
Up the Welsh.
Come, little fishy on the hooky.
So who do we think that it would be sensible for us to go for? Because I think the transfer rumours that are doing the rounds, apart from the Eze thing, I'm not really seeing us linked with anybody that's particularly electric. I think we've got a massive goalkeeper problem. I think we've got we need somebody to replace Romero should she decide to go to Atletico, and then we need somebody who's going to boss that midfield.
So you go on social. Is a nonsense being put forward. There's that boy Hotspur blog that links us with 1 million, but I've never seen one of them sign yet. But we need a centre forward. Bear with me one moment. I've just got something at the front door. Carry on.
Oh, blimey! There we go.
There we go. Oh, he's wearing trousers. I thought he normally went al fresco on Mondays.
That's his extra large double dildo arriving.
His industrial strength there. All I can tell you is
it's out of control.
All I can tell you is I stayed at Chris's, and there were certain cupboards I was too scared to open. And one of them definitely had somebody in, because
is that the Fritzl cupboard?
I mean, I'm not saying he's a degenerate. Oh, there he is.
We're not saying he's a serial killer or anything like that. No, far be it from that.
Was that another one of those long life food packages for the apocalypse?
He's a prepper. He's a doomsday prepper.
Yeah, it's my 56 gallons of water, 34 toilet rolls, and 134 cans of beans.
Yeah, I think that you removed the beans from the equation there, mate. You might.
That gets him. No, Chris, that gets him through a couple of days.
Something for the weekend, sir.
Yeah. You don't get your pecs flexing like that.
So how much is 100 gallons of lube these days, Chris?
Industrial strength.
Ask your boyfriend. Going back to your football-related initial question, I think we need another centre forward. We need an attacking midfielder. We need a central defensive midfielder, and we need a couple of fullbacks.
So I unearthed a quote the end of last week from Thomas Frank, and it was a journalist that had spoken to him when he was at Brentford, and he was talking about Ivan Toney, and that he had said to him all about, because one of the great problems with Spurs is that we are brilliant, really, really resilient and inventive at making excuses for players that don't come up to scratch. So you can't have a dig, for example, at Solanke, who I'm about to reference more sensibly, because he does a lot of running off the ball. He does, and I can't even bother to wheel through all the rubbish that is put up to excuse the fact that he doesn't do what he's supposed to do, which is put the ball on the back of the onion net. But Frank had said to Ivan Toney, I don't want you to do this. I don't want you to do that. I just want you to be available and to be there to put the killer ball in, and we will support you. And that gave the player ultimate freedoms, and which you can just see. I mean, even when you've seen him play, I saw him play a little fraction for England. There's something about him where you just know he's instinctively going in for the kill. He's not part of a bunch of attacking players. He's there like an assassin. He's got one thing on his mind, and that level of focus, I just think is exceptional. Do you think that Frank could bring that out in Solanke? Do you think he could get him to think the same way that Ivan Toney does? I'm not sure.
It has to be there in the first place, AJ. There has to be an instinctive nature there in the first place to be able to mould and get to do what he's doing. You look at Toney. He not only was he great with his feet, because he scored some excellent goals with shots and what have you, but in the air, aerially, he was an absolute beast. He was vicious in the air. Crap out of defenders aerially, and Solanke doesn't do that. Solanke scores very few with his head. Aerially, he looks very incomplete at all. I like the fact that he does a lot of running, but like you say, his job isn't to do a lot of running and a lot of diversion. A lot of his job is to tap the ball in the net. But he's having to do what he's doing because he wasn't getting the support, because we had people who couldn't cross the bloody ball. So, I can understand why he did it, but I think that you're absolutely right. Frank's got to just turn around and say to him, that 6-yard area, you do not deviate outside that area whatsoever.
Yeah. You get yourself in there and you make yourself available, because you're not there to be part of the link-up play. You're the way the link-up play goes to. You're the destination.
How many goals from range did Gary Lineker score in a Barcelona and Spurs shirt in his career? He was just the fox in the box, wasn't he? The predator around the pitch.
Absolutely.
And Van Nistelrooy and Ian Rush, these guys were purely there. They didn't really do much beyond that, and that's the difference, I think, with Brennan Johnson, is that he doesn't do much beyond his goals, but he's not hitting the heights of Van Nistelrooy, Ian Rush, Gary Lineker. And I think that maybe solves that question mark that we were we've been pondering over for weeks.
In some respects, Johnson, to his credit, regardless of the fact that 90, apart from scoring his goals, what have the Romans ever done for us? Sort of scenario is is that he was actually where Solanke should have been, because a lot of these goals were tap-ins. You know, and that's I'm thinking, well, hold on, but you're where your striker should be.
Correct, absolutely, and this is one of the things that Chris has observed endlessly about Brennan Johnson. Doesn't go past his man, needs to be given it on the plate in order to do anything, which is fine. That's not a massive criticism, because there's lots of footballers who need, get away with building careers about having it on the plate. Now, Ivan Toney, you could example as in the top 10 of those, but Brennan Johnson isn't that bloody footballer. He's quite inadequate beyond the getting his toe on the outside post. But yeah, I just wondered if Thomas Frank was going to, because I don't think the conversation is even worth having with Richarlison. Without being unnecessarily cruel, I think he's as thick as mince. I don't think anything's going to work there.
We need another option to try and break down European teams, or we need to be able to throw two up together at the same time. We seem to be linked with all these French players. Yeah, I'd love it if we went and knocked on the door of Juventus and offered him money for that Dusan Vlahovic. So he's a big unit. That he's a finisher. He is. He's 25, 26 years of age, but he's like 6'4" tall. He is the person that you feed him the ammo and he'll score the goals.
My concern with him is would he work in the Premier League? And I don't say that based on anything apart from, as I say, the size of the plot, the graveyard that Tottenham Hotspur Football Club has of players that didn't quite cut it.
What do you mean? You mean Rebrov, Soldado,
Jansen,
Bergwijn,
Bergwijn. Who was the other one? Kevin Nkudu. Come on, they're all household names.
No Cluedo. Those were the days. No Cluedo.
Benjamin Stambouli in midfield.
Stambouli.
The thing is, just not very good. I think he would be a very, very good player, but it then depends on what service he's going to get. So you'd need to have the people who are going to be able to give him that service. And if you're going to do something where you're going to ensure that service happens, then you've got to give Solanke a bit more time, I think, because you don't want to be spending another 70, 80 million on, because that's what Vlahovic would go for. You're not going to get him for decent money. You're going to have to pay steady money to price him away, and you want to give somebody like potentially like Solanke, if he's going to get more service and get better service, and Frank's got to give him some time to actually allow him to be able to demonstrate that he can be that player. That would be my view anyway, rather than spending the money on someone like Vlahovic until we can guarantee the service. There's no point in spending that sort of money on somebody like him.
The trouble with Solanke is that we've spent. Sorry, go on.
I was going to say I can't predict the future like the director of the most recent Maverick film, but it would not surprise me one bit if come the 1st of September we're discussing the signing of Dominic Calvert-Lewin.
Oh God!
I think
we were linked with X, we were linked with Y. Z didn't come too expensive. Disagreement over commercial rights, but we got an England international. Welcome DLC.
Don't knock it, guys. Don't knock it, fellas. Don't knock it, fellas. Andy Carroll hasn't got a club at the moment.
Does he bring the vibes though? That's what we really want to know.
Well, he brings the man bun. So
he brings half a bottle of vodka in his sock. I met him actually at Melwood at the Liverpool training ground many years ago, and he was with that bald Cockney guy from Fulham who looked like
Franceschi.
Yeah, that's the boy. That's the boy. Tony said there, yeah. And they were very funny talking to each other. I can't repeat what was said because that would be inappropriate, but equally the language they used was inappropriate. And it always gives me a fascinating insight to people, the way they talk about women. I mean, we say the most disgusting things, but we do it in a humorous way, I think. But when you see people talking in confidence to each other on a training pitch, and they refer to women in a certain manner with no sense of irony or humour, I just get very concerned, very concerned. I mean, unless a man would have phoned the police after hearing what they'd said, it really wasn't very nice at all. But that's the way they operate.
By that age, it must have been bad.
Yeah, it was bloody awful. And a mate of mine, curiously enough, another Andy Carroll anecdote I've got for you, because I only deal at the top class end of smut, was that when he got injured, Newcastle United put out the story that he was injured in training. I got a phone call from a mate of mine who I lived with. He lived in Essex for years and years and years. Anyway, complicated story. He ended up going up to Newcastle, where his family were originally from, because he was adopted. And he said, "Oh, if you want to know about Andy Carroll," he said he didn't get injured in training. And I said, "Well, there was a big thing in the Daily Mail or the Sun or whatever this morning." He said, "No." He said he was in my bar. He said, I've got the receipt if you want it. And I said, no, I can't run with that. I really can't run. He's not even a Spurs player. And he said, yeah, he had 7 pints, 15 sambucas. The list was enormous. And this was daytime drinking. And he fell off a bar stool.
Good lad. Well done.
Yeah. I mean, I'd certainly regard that he passed the audition to come out with us.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. It's the phrase away the lads.
Embracing that.
Clunk. But yeah, he was absolutely sloshed off his nut.
But did he hurt anybody? No, so leave him alone.
Exactly, and no prostitutes were involved in the making of that story.
Well, going back to the thing of subject of women, it's also
this will be a short show.
This is a very clumsy segue, but I thought I'll go for it anyway because we're rank amateurs on this on this show.
You saw a window of opportunity and leapt out of it.
Exactly, basically. Yeah. Don't tell about Hayes.
What?
It's noticeable the wailing from the vaginas of the players has calmed down after Ange's left and Frank has now come in, hasn't it?
Yeah,
noticeable how all that wailing and gnashing of teeth and basically unrequited love seems to have died down to an almost silence, non-existence now. It's just amazing. I mean, for God's sake,
now they're talking about contract extensions, really looking forward to playing for him, and the mood has been lifted.
What it was like I said the other week, though, this just showed the levels of immaturity. You got players who didn't show up for 22 games and more. And then they still, despite the fact that this wasn't going to work out for them at all, couldn't resist the dopamine hit of putting out stuff on social media and having all the little nitwits say, "Oh yeah, I've really miss him too." Where do you go with these people? You are paid
professionals to do a job. Yeah. When if somebody in our business left, a manager or someone we were quite close to and really respected, if they leave, you're sad. But life moves on. You've got the job to do the next day. You don't go outpouring on social bloody media about how you missed this guy. I mean, for God's sake, just go and lube up somewhere and just get it out of your system. For God's sake.
I've often had a tear in my eyes. I've waved farewell to a colleague leaving in a police car.
in a lot of
and their desk being taken away in its sealable bags.
In a lot of industries I've worked in, no sooner has somebody vacated the desk, people have been eyeing it up to see how their personal belongings would fit in there and how they could get that greasy pole, and they're soon forgotten about.
Yeah, exactly. In the real world, nobody. I mean, every job interview I've had, the killer question. The killer question at the end was never, and tell me, what could you bring to the role in respect of vibes?
Yeah.
So if I walked in, I said, I got the vibes, man. I got the vibes.
Tony,
I would not get the job.
It's like when the boy dumped us recently, Tony, for that old Australian fella, and we were like, well, who the fuck is the boy Hotspur?
I know.
Sometimes.
But then again, Chris, you see, we just don't have that sort of vibe, do we, mate? No, we don't have that activity and vibe, do we? Tune in next week when you hear those piggies say.
Right, we're not even approaching the hour mark. That's right. Has anybody got any dirty jokes or want to play the spoons or anything? So, I mean, what we really need is we need to get this Eze thing over the line, and I think we need some kind of. It would be. I mean, he's not going to come out with it though, is he? But it would be nice to get some sort of sense that we were going to be a bit more of an attacking threat.
Just
because I think Eze would provide that, but that isn't enough. I don't feel.
Just to completely explode the fan base and for social media to melt down, how fun it will be when Carl Walker-Peters is announced as our next signing.
Oh, don't.
Well, Carl Walker-Peters or Carl Walker or both.
Yeah. I mean, even the conversation is recurring with some about when we're bringing Harry Kane back. I mean, these are people who don't no life experience. His kids are just settled in school.
Yeah.
What's he going to do? Commute? It's just, honestly, it just fills me with terror. I mean, yeah, first of all, laughter, but then terror that they would just think, they don't think, do they? They don't think. They have no life experience whatsoever. But
it's a bit like the Liverpool supporters all wailing and gnashing their teeth over Trent Alexander-Arnold disappearing and what have you. It's just like, for God's sake, any player, any player now. You've got to realise it's a different breed of player now. In the the 70s, 60s, 70s, 80s, even you had players who were loyal to the club because that's just the way it was in football. It's a different game now. It's a money game. These people are doing what they can to set themselves up for life. And can you blame them? No, you can't. Harry Kane should have gone years before he did. He left it way too late. He left it way too late. He'd have, and fair play to him for being so loyal. But everybody, I think, in the last 2 seasons was just saying, Harry, for heaven's sake, just go, mate. Stop this torture for yourself.
The tone from a loyalty perspective that made me smile big time. That Florian Wirtz's dad was his agent, so as part of his transfer, him and his mum walked away with £6.8 million in agent fees.
Nicely done. Nicely done.
Well done.
But the trouble is, I think this touches on, and this goes back to those fans in that video, that people, this fan base is set up wrong. It's fundamentally set up wrong. We're geared up for an after party. We're geared up to celebrate. So all this business of, dance moves and vibes and all the rest of it, that's what we're waiting for. We don't want to do the hard yards. I mean, there wasn't one single Australian, and I know there are other ethnicities of fans out there, but there wasn't one single Postecoglou fan out there that referenced the business of players showing improvement, that the players had shown any growth. I mean, this was a line that Ange came out with himself a number of times. Oh, yeah, we've shown we've grown. And I thought, yeah, you've grown, mate, because you won't get away from the all-day buffet. And people moaning about him, he is morbidly obese.
Is that growing like a lymphoma?
Yeah.
Sorry.
These players lost 23 games or whatever it was for him. So where all these screams of passion, of fighting his cause, running through brick walls for him, they didn't run through brick walls in any of those games I was at.
No. And like I said, the support that came out from the players, to me, it was this again was a bunch of ninnies that were just wanted to have more celebration and more party and more dopamine. And so if you said you really missed him and he was lovely and he's made me the man I am today, what an absolute noodle you made of yourself. What an absolute nitwit you made of yourself.
We criticise him constantly and with justification. But I thought Levy, for once, got the whole decision-making process absolutely spot on. He allowed him to. He knew. He must have known he'd so-called thrown the league. So, which I'm sure privately he was absolutely disgusted by and just thought, what a loser. But he's let him do what he needed to do. He's managed to get something out of it, and then he's gone, right. The rest of it was absolute dog shit. You're out of here. Go somewhere else. Go and play your track. I thought he was absolutely spot on in his decision making. I never thought it would happen. I thought he'd give him another season. I thought he'd get sentimental. But for once, Levy actually was not sentimental. He was cutthroat and just went, "You're not good enough for us. Get away."
I felt exactly the same. I didn't feel with Levy there would ever be any sentiment. I think he feigned sentiment a little in that interview he gave us with Vishai. But the reality was that we're very fortunate that Frank said yes. Because if Thomas Frank had said no, the easiest path, the path of least resistance as ever, which we know is Daniel's favourite thing, because he likes to do the faux swashbuckle thing, like when he brings Gareth Bale back or whatever. But he doesn't. He's not a brave man, and things that fall into his lap he exploits because they haven't cost him anything, like Rafa van der Vaart, for example, and there's numerous other examples. And the fact that he had so much money when he was building the stadium, it didn't matter that him and his family wandered around basically destroying parts of it. It was all stuff done by other people. And this takes us back to the compulsory purchase order business, takes us back to the Y word business when he invited the Metropolitan Police in. It had nothing to do with him. He wasn't actually doing any of the hard yards, the heavy lifting. And so to get rid of Ange, it would have been very easy because who's he going to do? What's he going to do? Is he going to phone Brendan Johnson again? And
Brendan Rodgers.
Brendan Rodgers again, and say, I know I phoned you 3 times already about this extravagant opportunity, but would you consider not saying no?
If you listen to Vinay's most recent press conference and things come out, the suggestion is they had 30 candidates that they analysed for that managerial. Honestly, if you
I made the point on the Substack that if I married Fat Mabel from the Bakers, I could say that she was the one because there were 50 other candidates that were women, which included supermodels, which is great. In my own head, I can say to myself, who do I want to marry? Well, actually, for all what other people might say about her, I find Tubby Mabel quite hot. She does things to me. And also, she doesn't tell me off when I go near her and threaten me with police action.
And it's the all-you-can-eat pastries as well, mate, because she's a baker.
Oh, not off. No, and those hands, you can just smell it. Experience in them knuckles. Experience.
And it might be
kneading the dough, mate, and brings on another completely different sort of euphemism.
She said to me, self-raising. I said, it's twitching a bit, love.
It's not quite dead yet.
There's life in the old dog yet.
Yeah, those pills do wonders.
And don't forget, you get a free pack with every fire stick. Crispy details.
H provides the fire stick. I provide the pills. Chris provides the lube.
And I would definitely recommend. Yeah. And I'll put Chris's home address for those of you who want to click and collect in the description of this tape.
Yeah. Free purchases can't be wrong.
Exactly. Right. Any more? Have we got any more hate or contempt within us that we can share with the world before this is all over?
Well, I think we've only mentioned one serial killer. I think our audience has been craving for mentions of more serial killers. So I think we've got 4 minutes. Let's try and get as many as we can.
I think Joseph Mengele got a pretty bad rap, actually.
Don't go there.
Right, folks. Listen. If anything sensational happens, we have the ability, because we are the 3 amigos and we're ready to ride and fight injustice wherever it may appear. We will come to you again. But at the moment, it's a little bit quiet. I have a feeling the storm will break soon. So that's it for now. Good luck. Keep it Tottenham.